What could possibly drive a courtroom to slash a sentence in the middle of a high-profile case? In a shocking twist, actress Song Yiren stunned the world by exposing a dark, terrifying secret behind Yu Manglong's mysterious death. Her revelation didn't just change her own fate, it cracked open one of the most disturbing scandals the industry has ever seen. Let's join Red Carpet Reveal to uncover the truth right now. What dark truth could possibly force a courtroom to slash the sentence of a woman once condemned? That was the question on everyone's lips as Song Yiren, an actress who had become a symbol of disgrace in the eyes of the public, stood before the judge and spoke words that would alter the course of the Yu Mangong case forever. The courtroom was suffocating with tension. Flashbulbs from reporters outside cut through the silence. Millions across the nation sat glued to their screens as live updates streamed in. And then came the shock twist that no one could have foreseen. Song Yiren's sentence was reduced after she revealed a horrifying secret connected to the death of Yu Mangong. To understand the weight of this revelation, one must first remember who Yu Mangong was. A rising star with a gentle smile and a voice that captivated audiences. Had been destined for greatness. His dramas drew millions of viewers. His music topped charts. And his fanbase stretched across Asia. He was loved not just for his artistry but for his humility. The sense that fame had not corrupted him. And that was why his sudden and mysterious death felt like an earthquake in the entertainment world. It wasn't just the loss of a celebrity. It was the loss of someone who embodied hope. When Yu Manglong's body was discovered, the official story was rushed and unsatisfying. Authorities claimed exhaustion and stress had led to a sudden collapse. The autopsy report, delivered by a respected forensic doctor, was vague and riddled with inconsistencies. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like a tragic accident. But to his fans, to those who followed his career closely, nothing about the explanation made sense. They began to ask questions. Why were there bruises that didn't fit the story? Why had you been sending cryptic messages to friends in his final days? And why did those closest to him, including Song Yiren, appear so tense, so evasive? When pressed by the media, Song Yiren's involvement was complex. She and Yu had once been close, though the nature of their relationship was disputed. Some said they were friends. Others whispered of romance, while skeptics claimed she envied his rising fame. When the initial investigation cast suspicion in her direction, she became a lightning rod for public anger. It splashed her face across front pages, labeling her a villain. Online mobs tore her apart, calling her a betrayer, a manipulator, a snake. As the narrative hardened, prosecutors pursued her with vigor. She was eventually convicted on charges of obstruction and complicity. Though many details remained murky, her name became synonymous with guilt. But in the weeks leading up to the appeal trial, rumors began to stir. Insiders whispered that Song Yiren was preparing to speak out. That she had been pressured into silence before, but now, facing years behind bars, she was ready to expose the truth. No one knew what to expect. But anticipation grew. When the day finally came, the courtroom felt less like a place of law and more like a stage for history. Song Yiren walked in pale but composed, her hands trembling only slightly as she gripped the railing of the witness stand. She was no longer the glamorous actress who once walked red carpets. She was stripped of makeup, her hair tied back plainly, her expression carved by months of anguish. The room fell silent as she cleared her throat. What followed was a testimony that would send shockwaves through the nation. Her voice cracked at first, but soon it steadied, driven by conviction. She began by recounting her relationship with Yu Mangong, not as gossip magazines had portrayed it, but as two colleagues navigating the harsh reality of the industry. She described how he confided in her, how he expressed fear of people he once trusted implicitly. He told her of contracts that felt like shackles, of executives who dangled success like a poisoned chalice, of secrets too dangerous to be spoken aloud. He said he felt like a prisoner, she whispered, her words echoing through the hushed chamber. And prisoners don't live long if they try to escape. Gasps rippled through the audience. The judge rapped his gavel to maintain order. But it was impossible to contain the wave of unease sweeping through the room. Song Yiren pressed on. She revealed that on the night of Yu Mangong's death, she had been coerced into silence by individuals far more powerful than herself. She named no names yet. Descriptions painted a picture of an invisible hand controlling every move behind the scenes. She recounted how she had been instructed to mislead investigators, How she was warned that her own career and safety depended on obedience. I was terrified, she admitted, tears streaking down her face. I thought I was protecting myself, but in truth, I was betraying him. As her testimony continued, she detailed a chilling sequence of events. Yu Mangong had discovered financial irregularities within his management company. Millions siphoned off through shell accounts and hidden deals. When he confronted those involved, he was threatened. She said he confided in her days before his death, telling her he might not survive if he refused to comply. He begged her to remember his words, to someday tell the truth if he could not. At the time, she thought he was exaggerating. Now, standing in the courtroom, she realized his fears had been a prophecy fulfilled. The room was spellbound. Prosecutors tried to interrupt, accusing her of fabricating stories to save herself. The defense argued her testimony aligned with newly uncovered evidence. Documents seized in recent raids suggested exactly the kind of corruption Yu Mangong had described. Transfers of money, coded communications, and internal memos all pointed to a cover-up that extended well beyond Song Yiren. Her words no longer seemed like a desperate ploy, they resonated with a ring of truth. And then came the moment that froze everyone in place. Yiren leaned forward, her voice dropping to barely more than a whisper, and said, "On the night he died, I heard his final words." He said, "It was them, the ones I trusted." The sentence hung in the air like a ghost. It was the same phrase police had discovered on a faint recording from Yu Mangong's apartment, but now confirmed by the one person who had been closest to him in those final hours. The gallery erupted. Reporters scrambled to type, cameras flashed, and murmurs filled the chamber. The judge once again demanded silence. But the atmosphere had irrevocably shifted. This was no longer about whether Song Yiren was guilty of obstruction. It was about who they were, the ones Yu Mangong had trusted. The ones who had betrayed him. As her testimony concluded, the weight of her confession was undeniable. Yes, she had lied before. Yes, she had obstructed justice under duress. But by speaking out now, she had cracked open a case that had been suffocating under layers of lies. The court, recognizing the significance of her revelation, announced a reduction in her sentence. It was not absolution, she was still guilty of her earlier silence, but it was acknowledgement that her courage had finally brought light to darkness that threatened to consume everything. Outside the courthouse, chaos reigned. Crowds chanted, some in anger that she was not punished more severely. In support of her bravery, social media exploded with debates, hashtags flying across platforms. Song Yiren truth trended alongside justice for Yu Mangong. Analysts filled talk shows, testing every word of her testimony, speculating about the identities of the ones he trusted. For fans, the revelation was bittersweet. It brought them closer to justice, yet also reopened wounds that had barely begun to heal. And so of this unfolding tragedy ends not with closure, but with a haunting question. If Yu Mangong's last whisper accused those closest to him, then who exactly are they? How deep does this betrayal go? And what terrifying secret did Song Yiren risk everything to expose? The answers, revealed in the second half of this investigation, not only shatter illusions about the entertainment world, but also uncover a conspiracy darker than anyone had imagined. The echo of Song Yiren's words still lingered in the courtroom long after she had stepped down from the witness stand. It was them, the ones I trusted. Of betrayal from Yu Mangong's dying lips, repeated by the very woman once painted as his enemy, had ripped open the fragile facade of the case. The sentence for Song Yiren was not just a legal technicality, it was an acknowledgement that her testimony had shifted the balance of truth. But as the shock settled, a larger, terrifying question began to dominate the nation's conscience: who were they? In the days that followed, investigators doubled their efforts. Search warrants were executed at the headquarters of Yu Mangong's management company, long rumored to be entangled with powerful figures in politics and business. What they uncovered was not just corruption, but an empire of exploitation. Files revealed patterns of financial siphoning, with millions diverted through offshore accounts. More chillingly, there were internal memos that referenced containment strategies for artists who became problematic. Yu Mangong's name appeared in coded documents, marked with phrases like risk factor and urgent silence. The revelations shook the industry to its core. Executives who once walked red carpets with pride now scurried into hiding, their lawyers issuing bland denials, The evidence spoke louder than their silence. Song Yiren's testimony about Yu's discovery of financial crimes now seemed indisputable. He had confronted them, threatened to go public, and in doing so had signed his own death warrant. Media outlets erupted with exposés. Investigative journalists pieced together timelines, linking Yu's increasing isolation with the company's tightening grip on him. Former employees, emboldened by the scandal, began to speak out. One described overhearing a conversation in which a senior executive referred to Yu as a liability that needed to be managed. Another revealed that surveillance had been placed on him to monitor his movements and communications. Piece by piece, a portrait emerged of a young man trapped in a gilded cage, silenced when he dared to fight back. Meanwhile, Song Yiren's transformation from pariah to reluctant whistleblower captured the public imagination. She remained behind bars, serving a reduced sentence. But her testimony had ignited a national reckoning. For some, she was still complicit, guilty of not speaking sooner. For others, she was a tragic figure herself, a woman forced into silence by the same machinery that destroyed Yu Mangong. Opinion pieces debated whether she should be vilified or celebrated. Either way, she had forced open a door that could never again be closed. The courtroom became the stage for even greater drama as the trial of the implicated executives began. Prosecutors, armed with Song Yiren's testimony and the mountain of new evidence, laid out the conspiracy in chilling detail. They described a network of corruption that reached into law enforcement, the medical field, and even the judiciary. The forensic doctor who had falsified Yu's autopsy confessed under oath that he had been threatened with ruin if he did not comply. "I was told his death must be natural," said, voice trembling. "But the body told me otherwise." Remarks I could not ignore. Yet I ignored them, because I was afraid. His words echoed the same theme that now haunted the entire scandal. Fear had silenced everyone, until now. As each witness testified, the scope of the betrayal grew. Yu Manglong's managers had known he wanted to break free from his contract. He had threatened to hold a press conference. Could not risk the exposure of their financial crimes. And so, rather than negotiate or release him, they orchestrated his destruction. The betrayal of trust was complete. He had believed they were family. He had believed their reassurances. And in his final moments, as he whispered the words that would haunt a nation, he realized the truth. Those he trusted most were the ones who had orchestrated his end. Public outrage reached fever pitch. Swelled outside the courthouse. Fans held candles and sang Yu's songs through tears, their voices trembling but united. International media broadcast images of mothers clutching their children's hands, telling them, "This is why we must fight for justice." Tags like "Unmask the Ones" and "Yu Mangong Never Forgot" trended globally. It was no longer just about one man's death, it was about an industry's rot laid bare. The verdicts, when they came, were historic. Several executives received lengthy prison sentences for fraud, coercion, and obstruction of justice. A forensic doctor lost his license and was sentenced as well. Even mid-level managers were punished for their roles in the cover-up. But for many, the sentences felt insufficient compared to the life that had been stolen. Justice, though delivered, felt incomplete. Yu Mangong would never return. His laughter, his voice, his bright smile, those were gone forever. Yet, his legacy had transformed. His final whisper, carried on trembling breath, had become a battle cry. His death sparked reform movements across the entertainment industry. Lawmakers introduced bills to protect young artists from predatory contracts. Watchdog organizations were formed to monitor corruption. Fans organized not just memorials, campaigns for systemic change. Yu Manglong's whisper had ignited a roar that could not be silenced. As for Song Yiren, her story remained one of contradictions. In prison, she received letters from fans, some condemning her, others thanking her for her courage. Interviews with her lawyers revealed she wept constantly, consumed by guilt for not speaking sooner, yet resolved to honor Yu by ensuring the truth stayed in the light. "I betrayed him once," she told her attorney. "I will never betray him again." Months later, Yu Manglong's funeral became a global event. Thousands gathered, lining streets with white flowers, with songs in unison. Messages written on banners fluttered in the wind. "We hear your whisper. Truth lives on." Justice for Menglong, his family, broken, stood tall, thanking those who had fought to uncover the truth. He is gone, his mother said through tears. But his voice will never die. He spoke in whispers to turn them into chorus. The story of Yu Mangong and Song Yiren is more than a scandal. It is a tragedy, a reckoning. Lesson written in pain. It teaches that power unchecked breeds cruelty. That silence enforced by fear can be broken only by courage. And that even in death, truth finds a way to rise. Yu Manglong's last words, fragile though they were, have now reshaped an industry, toppled corrupt empires, and awakened millions to the dangers hidden behind the glitter of fame. And so, the haunting phrase lingers into the memory of a generation. It was them, the ones I trusted. In those few words lies the essence of betrayal, weight of grief, and the spark of justice. His whisper was not the end of a life, but the beginning of a movement. And as long as his fans, his family, truth seekers across the world remember, that whisper will echo louder than any scream. Yu Manglong's story is no longer just about tragedy, it is about truth breaking free from the shadows. His last whisper was not silence but resistance. Weakness but defiance. Song Yiren's testimony, though late, cracked open the walls built to bury his voice. And now, the world has heard it. The question is no longer who betrayed him, it is how many more whispers remain unheard, waiting for courage to set them free. With red carpet revealed as we continue to uncover the hidden truths, the scandals others want silenced, voices demanding justice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below, because together, we make sure no whisper ever fades again.